Hello, Kearstin.
Hi, Mark.
So I am Mark Shapiro, music director and conductor of the Cecilia Chorus of New York, in New York, and I have the great pleasure and honor of speaking on Zoom to the extraordinary soprano, Kearstin Piper Brown. Hi,
Thank you.
Kearstin. Yeah.
Hi.
So Kearstin will be performing with the Cecilia Chorus of New York on December 11th at 2 p.m. in music by J.S. Bach and Margaret Bonds. Bach's Magnificat and Christmas Oratorio, an excerpt, and then the Ballad of the Brown King by Margaret Bonds on text by Langston Hughes.
Mhm.
So enough preamble. We are very excited to work with you, Kearstin, and I think the place to start is I could not believe when you told me this will be your Carnegie Hall main stage debut. That's
Yes,
true, right?
it is. Yes. Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited.
The honor is all ours. So I have become acquainted with your work in various ways. Of course, I saw Intimate Apparel at Lincoln Center, and you were just amazing. And
Thank
then
you.
you and I had the pleasure of working together on a new opera in June, where you were also amazing. And
Thank you.
something I'm realizing when we did that work, our first acquaintance, I was home with COVID and
Oh,
listening to you over Zoom and thinking, she's so good. I can't
oh,
wait.
thank you. I was just praying you would get back into the room because I felt a little lost.
Well, we found each other, so it was great.
Yes.
And then as soon as the opera was done, I came running and said, "Could you do this with us?" So I'm just curious, has it been sort of on your bucket list to sing in Carnegie Hall, or yes, no?
Absolutely. I don't know if you know, I'm the chair of the board of directors for the Gateways Music Festival,
Hmm.
and the orchestra made its Carnegie Hall debut in April with John Batiste with the world premiere. And I was just sitting in the audience like a proud mother of an orchestra that I kind of helped to bring to Carnegie Hall. And when I walked in there, I said, "Oh, it would be nice to sing in here, perform here myself." But I never really thought about it. I know that there are things that are going to happen for me. Or places I'm going to perform, and I'd never thought I would sing Bach at
Hmm.
Carnegie Hall. And it's just so interesting that you heard me sing this very modern mathematical
Yeah,
piece and thought of, hey, you'd be good singing Bach. I thought that was really great of you.
sure. Thank you. Well, you know, I think it's always interesting to hear, sort of, to try to hear really to the essence of the person. But I
Mm,
think I did ask you also whether what you thought about your own singing of Bach.
yeah.
And do you remember what you said or what you would say
I
next?
mean, I, I don't think I've ever performed a Bach live in front of an audience since I was in graduate school at Northwestern. But I remember enjoying and getting that base of Handel, Bach, and Mozart. I
Hmm.
never touched a Puccini or Verdi or anything or a modern piece for quite some time. And so that's what I was fed
Hmm.
in, in many, many years of my early study. And so to come back to it is just, it's wonderful. Um, and but once you start doing a lot of modern works and doing, I've done a few Porgy and Besses, a lot of people don't really listen for that. I feel like a lot of people have casted me based upon how I look,
Hmm.
quite honestly, and haven't necessarily listened. So I appreciate you listening to my voice.
Well, as I said, both on Zoom and in person, it was a really great experience. And um, I think one of the reasons you probably do also get cast in new pieces, what I remember working with when we worked together in the opera, is just what a good musician you are. So,
Oh,
you were so prepared and so accurate. I mean, it was really
oh my gosh.
amazing.
Do you
Yeah.
remember you asking me if I ever thought about a career in conducting? I
Yes.
laughed. I was like, I fooled him, huh?
You totally did. Yes. But
No, thank you so much. It was a wonderful compliment.
yeah, I think you could, don't rule it out. That's all I'll say.
Watch out. Don't close your eyes. I'm taking your
Yeah.
job.
That coming
No
up
way.
behind me, right?
No way.
Yeah. Um, so Let's back up a little bit. And so
Sure.
you mentioned you sang a lot of Bach and Handel and Mozart as a younger singer. For
Yeah.
our listeners who might not think about why somebody would do that,
Mhm.
why would somebody do that, do you think? And what's the value of it, if there is one?
I think it gave me, guess a good foundation in precision in voice. Singing and also with being able to, because of course you can of course embellish in Bach, but there's this like base that you have to build upon,
Hmm.
and just kind of gosh it. Okay, hold on, let me start that over.
Sure.
There's a wonderful precision, um, sorry, let me start that over. I started off and I just I almost cursed. Sorry.
Follow your thoughts. It's all right. We can edit.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um, s- Singing a lot of Bach, Handel, Mozart, as my early diet in singing gave me a really wonderful base in learning how to use my voice very precisely, and just the style, learning how to embellish within this particular style that seems so very precise, but is still free melodically, but within this, this very specific structure. I don't know
Yeah.
if that makes
Mhm.
any sense. Before getting into uh, the more romantic pieces where the voice tends to do other things. I'm grateful for my teacher for giving me this baseline of, no, we're going to do this first, and then we
Mhm.
build upon that. Um, and so I felt like I excelled in that as a young singer, and I always go back to it, even if I'm doing my modern pieces or my more romantic works. I go back to my Mozart Exultate Jubilate, which is just like my little check in.
Yeah,
Can
sure.
I still sing this? You know, okay, great. A few Bach pieces, messiahs I do every now and then. Just
Mhm.
making sure that I keep getting booked for those types um, of opportunities as well, which kind of keeps me nice and lined up.
Uh-huh. So tell us a bit about your musical formation and training. Um, I know you went to where for college? You had told me.
So I went to Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah,
It's historically Black college for women,
yeah,
um, and I was actually a little bit of a late bloomer to singing. As far as study, I did take voice lessons, but I was an ethnomusicology major
that's
in
right.
undergrad.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
And I just sang on the side, not ever thinking that I would ever want to sing on a stage. I wanted to do research. I wanted to teach. I wanted to just read books and learn about musical styles, and music culture. And it really wasn't until going into graduate school at Northwestern University, um, that I studied. And even still, when I left Northwestern with my master's degree, I taught elementary school music for about 2 years. Um, so I wasn't, I wasn't ready. I don't know, but I still took voice lessons locally in the Washington, D.C. area. And
Mhm.
eventually, a friend of mine got me to go to Italy with her for the summer, just as like moral support and to, take lessons as well. But I did really well in that program, and I came back home and started, getting booked um, for singing jobs.
It's really quite a story. I think as I've gotten to know you a bit, um, I think some singers come to the profession and with a very kind of career plan.
Oh, yeah, I
Um,
was not me.
yeah, I don't think that is you. And tell us about that.
Yeah, I always I saw myself as a dancer when I was young. I took a lot of ballet. I danced through college actually with my college's dance theater program, where I was a featured dancer at some point. And then that started to conflict with my music major.
Mhm.
And so I kind of gave up dancing slowly. Um, and I always wanted, I never wanted to hate singing. I never wanted it to be stressful. I never wanted it to be a job. And
Mhm.
so I think the way I say it came to me, I was ready to just have a little bit more fun with it.
Hmm.
and to just take things as they went. Um, I I still and I still do to this day. I still work in radio as a classical host. I was an editorial assistant for Performance Today at National Public Radio,
Hmm.
and so I was, behind the scenes on the writing staff, and I still love to do so. I think my secret in being successful and not being jaded or anything, and being, you know, a good colleague and being happy on the job is that I just don't really see it as a job.
Hmm.
I mean, I do, but I see it as, wow, I get to do this, and I get to give a gift to the audience, and I
Hmm.
get to receive a gift from the audience. Um, and that's just kind of how I have to approach it. So I'm not stressed out about, oh, I don't have enough bookings for this, or, I find other things to do. I have two wonderful children that keep me very busy.
Hmm.
If I happen to
Older.
not be singing, they're 8 and 11, and they're both musicians, pianist and a violinist.
Very nice.
So I'm very much fulfilled musically at home by
Hmm.
their musical engagements as well. And so I'm just trying to have a good time and making sure that others have a good time too when I sing. And I
That's
think that's what's worked for me.
hmm that's very nice. And something I was thinking I wanted to ask you.
Mhm.
I know you've done a great deal of work in the theater.
Mhm.
Um, how do you feel about sacred repertoire like Bach? Do you make a distinction?
Mhm.
Is that coming from a different place for you? What
Yes.
do you think?
Um, I love singing sacred repertoire. I'm doing one of my first sacred recitals next year at a large church here in Rochester, New York, where I am. I'm very
Hmm.
excited about that. I am Christian. I grew up the great knowledge of biblical text,
Hmm.
um, and so an opportunity to sing um, uh, settings of those texts is just a way to kind of um, amplify my own experience spiritually, and another way to share or minister,
Hmm.
um, if you so. So I see that as an opportunity, and because of my belief and my belief system, I feel that I do well interpreting the texts because I believe them.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I find it a great opportunity and honor to be able to do that.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Um, now, I think you told me that Margaret Bonds was a name that you knew.
Yes.
And how did you come to know it?
hmm So in that time where I was pretending like I didn't want to be a singer, I graduated from college. I was working at National Public Radio. I studied with a woman named Charlotte Holloman. She made her career mostly in Germany, as many Black American singers of her time did, could not necessarily find work in the United States. And so when she retired from singing, she came back to Washington, D.C., taught at Catholic University and Howard University, and taught privately. And I was able to study with her. And she gave me a bunch of Margaret Bond's songs, spiritual settings, and some of them look like they were even handwritten, just manuscript. I asked her about these pieces, and she said, "Oh, she and we used to hang out." And so I was like, "Wow."
Hmm.
So, just kind of learning from her, who learned directly from Margaret Bonds. And of course, now I think many of us are learning a little bit more about her,
Yeah,
fortunately. But I also sang a bit of her repertoire, her spiritual settings when I was in college at Spelman.
that's extraordinary. I don't think I realized that your teacher had actually worked with Bonds personally.
Yes, she did.
That is really something. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Did she have any stories about Bonds that you could share that you remember?
I don't remember
Yeah.
many. I do remember her being, I think she told a story of being at in Chicago with her,
Mhm.
and Langston Hughes actually, let's talk about Langston Hughes. Langston Hughes coming over, and I wonder what they were working on. No, I was kidding.
Yeah, interesting.
Many things that she said, many of Langston Hughes' works,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I think that was I kind of like big eyes when she was telling about, sitting in the kitchen with Margaret Bonds and Langston Hughes.
Mhm.
I would have loved to been a fly on the wall, just see what was going on. What were they talking about? What were they writing?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't remember many. I mean, she just had so many different stories, but they were throwaways for her, like, oh yeah, I did that.
Yeah, they seem to have had extraordinary chemistry, Bonds and you.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
really good partnership.
Hmm.
I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about this particular text of the ballad.
Um, I've this will be my second time singing it. My debut in this piece was with Syracuse Opera last around this holiday. Um, it really does. It's just a sweet text,
Hmm.
um, and it's so endearing and charming. And I believe that Margaret Bonds just did a wonderful job with the musical setting. Um, and it's a nice way to tell another side of the story. Another side of the Christmas story. And I'm just so grateful to have the piece and the writing and what Langston Hughes was able to bring to the story, the birth of Jesus. So I'm so glad that it's getting done
Well,
more
we're thrilled to be doing it. We're thrilled to be doing it with you.
Yay.
And we hope our audience will come and discover you in your Carnegie Hall debut. Anybody who heard you at Lincoln Center or did not, I am here to tell you that Kearstin Piper Brown is one of a kind and should not be missed, and we can't wait.
Thank you.
So, Kearstin, thank you so much. I'll switch off the recording.
Okay. Thank you. That was fun.